Okay, today's lesson is on reflections. And we're going to begin by talking about reflecting things across the y-axis. So if you could, imagine that you were taking your paper and folding it right at the y-axis, and everything that's on the left side needs to be duplicated or will have a mirror image on the right side. So it's like everything on the left is going to have a mirror image that's going to be on the right side. So it's not like the flag is going to look exactly the same. It's not like translations. It's actually going to be reversed images. All right, so I think everybody gets the idea of what reflection is. Let's go about trying to see if we can figure out a pattern for how reflections occur. To go to point A, looks like I go left 5 and up 2. So to get to point A prime, I'm going to go right 5, which is positive, and up 2. To get to B, I'm going to go over 5, back 5 and up 5. So to get to B prime, I'll go positive 5 and up 5. To get to C prime, I'm not going to go back 5. I'm going to go forward 5 and up 7. To get to D prime, I'm going to go positive 8 and up 7. And to get to E prime, I'm going to go positive 8 and up 5. So it looks like I have a pattern here. Let's see if we can see the pattern. This is a pretty simple pattern. All of my x's changed. How did all of my x's change? Well, it looks like the only thing that happened is that the x's changed sign. So that's going to be one of my patterns that I see. So down here where it says pattern, my pattern is x's changed sign. Y's were the same. So nothing happened to the y's. I also want you to see that beyond just having that pattern, which is an easy pattern, I hope that you can also see something else. When you're working with a reflecting line, like the y-axis, that actually acts or serves to be something that's in the middle. So if we look, A is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the left. A prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the right. So 5 units, 5 units. What about if we go to E? Well, E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units to the right. That's E prime. E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units to the left. So 8 units to the left and 8 units to the left. So sometimes people recall that reflecting line is also known as a bisector. It bisects a line segment that would cut across between the A and the A prime, and also E to E prime, D to D prime, and so forth. So it like cuts down the middle. So basically, if you start on the left, 5 units, then the reflected point would be 5 units to the right. So we do have a rule. So let's go ahead and write the symbolic rule down. So you have a place down there where it talks about the rule. And the rule would simply be, take the original x's and y's. Since the x's change sign, I'm going to go opposite of x, which I use a negative sign to indicate opposite, but y's stay the same. So please remember, think of this as what? Think of this as opposite. So a negative sign, I want you to think of it as opposite, because sometimes when you say negative, you think that the answer will always be a negative number. All right, so that's reflection across the y-axis. Now let's talk about reflections across the x-axis. So this time, the axis that I want to be my reflecting line is going to be straight across here. This time I don't have the flag. I've used the flag a lot of times. This time I don't have a flag. I'm going to go to the points that it has indicated. So negative 4, 1, I'm going to use that as point A. So negative 4 up 1, point A was right here. So if I am 1 unit above my reflecting line, where do you think A prime should be located? Well, it would be hopefully 1 unit across the reflecting line. So that would be A prime. Notice that the coordinates of that point are negative 4, negative 1. I hope everybody sees that. All right, point B is going to be the point 3, negative 2. So I'm going to go over 3, down to negative 2. So this time my point starts below my reflecting line. So imagine if I was going to fold my paper, the point that's below the line would have a matching point above the line. So if it's 2 units below the line, then B should be what? 2 units above the line. So B prime would be located where? Well, I go over 3 still, but instead of going down, I'm going to go up, so that becomes a positive 2. Let's do another point. I'm going to let the next point be point C. That's negative 2, 5. Negative 2, negative 5. Negative 2, negative 5 puts the point C down here. We are 5 units below the reflecting line. So I think my point would be 5 units above the reflecting line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think C prime belongs there. So 5 units above, 5 units below. So the easy thing about reflections is you can simply count the blocks or the points above the line, below the line. The coordinates would be negative 2, so C prime would be negative 2, still negative 2, so that X didn't change. But I'm going to go up 5 instead of down 5, so that's positive. Next point is D. Hopefully we've seen enough of these. I hope you get the idea. D is at 4, 5, so I'm going to come over here to 4 and up 5, so this is point D. This time I am 5 units above the line, so D would be what? 5 units on the other side of the line, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that would be D prime. What are the coordinates of D prime? Well, you still go over 4, but now you're going to come down 5 units. So 4, negative 5. I hope we have done enough points that you kind of see a pattern. The X's, all 3, 3, negative 2, negative 2, 4, 4. It looks like the X's stayed the same. So I'm going to jot that down. This time my pattern is that the X's stay the same. All right, but what else happens? What happens with the Y's? I go from 1 to negative 1, from 2, negative 2 to positive 2, from negative 5 to positive 5, and from positive 5 to negative 5. So I believe we see enough of a pattern, and I think you can kind of tell what's going to happen here. The Y's change to what? Change to the opposite sign. Y's change to the opposite sign. So if we were going to predict 0, 1 should be 0 what? Negative 1. 3, negative 3, 0, which is this point right here. Let me see if I can find the color that I haven't used very much. So I have this purple. Negative 3, 0 is right on the reflecting line. So if I had this on a piece of paper and I folded it, it would still be right on that fold or right on that crease. So negative 3 stays the same, and then 0, of course, can't change sign. All right, generically, A and B. A is the first one. It would stay the same, but B would actually change to opposite of B, which, of course, I hope shows you what your rule is. The rule is your original X's and Y's become, X's stay the same, Y's change to opposite. So remember, that is interpreted as opposite of my Y. Okay, I believe for reflections, these are pretty straightforward. Okay, so we should have completed the front side of your notes sheet. Now let's go to the back. These two are a little bit different, so we'll spend a little time talking about it. This time it says the reflection is across the line, Y equals X. So if you remember your point slope formula for a line, or your slope-intercept form, mx plus b, if we have the equation y equals x, well, apparently what that means is there is an imaginary 1 in front of x, and then b is 0. So that means in order for you to get your line on here, and I do want you to draw a line, everybody needs a nice, crisp line. I suggest that you take a straight edge, or you fold a piece of paper and use that as a straight edge, and you draw a very nice, crisp line. So what I would do is I would start at the center at 0, 0, because that's where it crosses. The y-intercept is 0, and I'm going to rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1. So it always crosses perfectly in the middle of that quadrant, perfectly. It's hard to do it with your free hand, so use a straight edge. Okay, I have my line y equals x on here, and now what I need to do is I need to find the reflection across that line. Now this is different because I am looking above the line, at a point above the line, and I need a point across on the other side of the line. Sometimes you can see it. Sometimes you might have to count and try to predict it. All right. My pre-image is -4, 1. So I'm going to let that be point A. So -4, 1 is right here. So that's going to be my point A. Now the one thing I want you to understand is I got to go count like to the line, and then I want to be able to predict across the line. I believe that my other point should be straight across this line somewhere on the other side. And there is a pattern to this. You can look across, you can eyeball it, or you can still count. Okay, listen carefully. You can still count. The thing of it is you count to the line, change directions. So if you were going across, you're now going to change and go up or down. Then count away from the line. All right? See if I can show you what I'm talking about. I believe that our reflected point should be right there, because that looks like that would be the same distance from the 2 points. All right? Or I'm pretty close. All right, so we believe that from point A, the reflected point should be over here somewhere. Okay? All right, let's count and make sure we are in the exact same spot we need to be in. Okay, remember I said count to the line. So I'm just going to count across because that's just easy for me. I'm going to count across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went across 5 and I counted to the line. I went across first, so now I'm going to change direction. So I'm going to count away from the line and I have to go up or down. Well, I can't go up, so I should go down. So if I go down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. Right there should be the new point A prime. Okay, again, I'm the same distance across my reflecting line, but I was able to count and get it exactly in the right spot. So count to the line. When you change direction and count the same number away from the line, you're actually you're counting to and away, and you should be right where you need to be. The image turns out to be at 4, -1. That's A prime. All right, let's do point B. Point B is 3, -2, so I'm going to go over here 3, -2, so this is point B. I'm going to just temporarily erase my other straight marks so that we don't have anything interfering. All right, here's my point. I am eyeballing this. I'm kind of thinking I have to look at it diagonally across, and I'm thinking point B is going to be somewhere up in here. You understand? You have to look straight across the line. So I can eyeball it and try to get it close, or I can count. Okay? Count to the line. It doesn't matter which way you count. You can count to the left first, or you can count up first. It does not matter which way you count first, but count to the line. All right. So I'm going to count up, because that's what I want to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I touch the line. Remember, I counted up 5 units. Now it says change direction. So now I got to go left or right. Obviously, I can't go right because that's not on the other side. Count away from the line. So I'm going to go count away 5 units. I counted up 5 units. Now I'm going to count away 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This should be B prime. And then if I look closely at what I have, this distance to my reflecting line should be the same distance as I go to the other side of the reflecting line. And that point, I believe, is back 2 and up 3. Back 2 is -2. Up 3 is +3. Probably you're seeing a pattern here. All right, so we have A and B taken care of. I'm going to kind of erase my marks. I'm going to pick up black this time. I'm going to do C in black. -2, -5. -2, -5 is this point right here. And this time I'm a little closer to my reflecting line. I can almost eyeball this. So if I'm looking at it carefully, I am 1 hole across the box or to the next point, and it looks like I'm a half. So I would go a half to the other side to that point, and then another whole box across diagonally. I believe C prime should be right there. All right. Can you count to and away? Sure you can. I'm going to count to the line. I'm just going to count sideways. 1, 2, 3 units. Remember, if you count to the line 3 units, you got to count away from the line 3 units. I changed direction, so I can't go down. So I must go up. 1, 2, 3. Sure enough, that is the correct coordinates for C prime. So C prime would be, to get there from the origin, I'm going to go back 5 and then down 2. Do you see a pattern? I hope that you do. I hope that you do. So here's the pattern. The pattern is, do y'all see that the X's and Y's just switch? X's and Y's switch places. That's it. That's all they do. We don't change signs. So look, -2 was still a -2. All I did was move it to the front. 3 went to the back, but it stayed a +3. All right. -2 was still -2. It just switched sides. +4 still is, or excuse me, -4 still -4, and so forth. So once we've done a few, hopefully this idea of counting, even though the line is sideways, you're still counting in 2 directions because the line now moves up and over, up and over, up and over. So you have to count in 2 directions. All right, just to complete this activity, just to make sure, D would be what? D prime would be 5, 4. We'll call that E prime would be 1, 0. And then F would be 0, -3. I'm not changing signs, I'm just changing positions. So the generic A and B would simply be B, A. So what is the rule for this particular transformation? It is the X's and Y's become Y's and then X's. All we did is change positions. Again, anytime you need to stop or pause the video, please feel free to do so. Moving on to the next one. This is our last one. This time my equation is y equals -x, -x. So if I remember y is equal to mx plus b, and it's y equals -x, that's going to be like -1x plus 0. So what I do this time is I start in the center at 0, and this time I'm going to do rise over run. So that's like rise, -1, run, +1. So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So again, straight edges. Use a ruler. Fold a piece of paper. Use that edge to make a straight line. Okay. Now, if we can count to find our points on the last one, we can count to find our points on this one. All right, the pre-image. We'll call this point A. We'll do a few of these until we see a pattern. I'm going to go -4, 1, -4 back, and up 1. This is A. Now remember, we're trying to find an image on the other side of this reflecting line. So if I go straight to the line, then I need to be straight on the other side of the line the same amount. So A is going to be over there somewhere. A prime is going to be over there somewhere. Okay, so I can count to find the exact point. Remember, count to the line, change directions, count away from the line. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm touching my line. I went up. Now I'm going to change directions. Okay, change directions means if you went up and down, now you have to go left or right. I can't go backwards, so I have to go forwards 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Right there should be the coordinates of A prime. And they look like this distance and this distance across the reflecting line is the same. A prime's coordinates turn out to be, I go backwards 1, -1. Then I go up 4, which is +4. Okay, I hope that you see what we did. So I'm going to erase our marks just to make sure that everybody sees those. All right, let's do point B. 3, -2, over 3, down 2. This is point B. I am really, really, really close to that line. Okay, it looks like if I just look half a box across a diagonal, half a box, I should go across the line a half a box. I bet you B is that point right there. So it's super close to where I need to be. Okay. If you count, you would go down a block or right a block and then over a block. So you can count or you can eyeball this one. But it looks like B needs to be on the other side. If you imagine if you folded your piece of paper right there, what's above the line is now going to be below the line. Okay. So the coordinates of B prime's down here, should be over 2 and down 3. So B prime is over 2, +2, and down 3, -3. Let's do one more point and see if you have figured out a pattern yet. I believe some people probably are seeing a pattern. Okay, -2, -5. So -2, -5, here's the point, this is C. Remember how we practiced you could count to the line, change directions, count away from the line? I am farther away. I can kind of eyeball this, and I can see that I'm probably going to be somewhere over here, but I don't know exactly where. So I'm going to count this particular one this time so I can get the exact answer for C prime. All right, I'm going to count up simply because it's not going to be busy. It's already clean. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I counted up 7 units. Change directions. I won't go backwards. I am going to go forward 7 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe that is C prime. Okay, and if I look, this distance here and this distance here look to be the same. So I should be straight across my reflecting line. All right, on this one, C prime would be -5 because it looks like I go oops, I misspoke. I should go +5, and then up 2 right here. +5 and then up 2. All right. I hope that you have seen enough of how we do our things to predict a pattern. There is a pattern. I hope that you see it. We have 2 things that take place here. Number 1, do you see 4, 3, and 2? 4, 3, and 2. Except if I look closely, I had a -4 and now I have what looks like a +4. I had a +3 and now it is behind a -3. My 2 was a negative number, now my 2 is a positive number. So not only do I still have 4, 3, and 2 that are now switched places, now they're opposite signs. Okay, that looked a little messy, so let's clean that up. Okay, and let me grab a highlighter color. All right, now I want to look at 1, 2, and 5. I have 1, 2, and 5 that have now moved over here. Except what used to be +1, oops, that won't work. That's too big. I'm trying to be fancy. What's fancy? All right, what used to be +1 is now what? -1. What used to be -2 is now +2. What used to be -5 is now +5. Do you see enough of a pattern to make a prediction? I hope that you do. So here's the pattern. The pattern is, there's 2 things that happen. Switch places with X's and Y's. Okay. Then, change the sign of both the X's and the Y's. Okay. Pause the video if you need to stop. So if we predict D, I predict D prime to be, switch places, 5 comes to the front, 4 goes to the back, and I'm going to change the sign of both, -5, -4. E would be predicting, I'm going to say -1, 0 of course won't change the sign. -1, 0 is right on the line. Well, it's right here. Positive -1, 0 is right here. No, that ain't right. -1, 0 is right there, so that this distance and this distance is the same. All right, F, 0, -3, because we're switched up, 0, +3. And then finally, if we were to do a generic A and B, what happens is the B becomes the front, A goes in the back, and that's opposite of B and opposite of A. So that's going to help us write our rule, our last rule. Okay, and let me just let you take a look at that. I had written this in the past, so here we go. Opposite of Y, opposite of X. All right, I would like to go on by saying you have homework, and I'd like to review special lines because anytime you do a reflection, when you do reflections, the easiest thing to do first when you're actually putting stuff on paper and you're having to draw a reflection is put or draw the reflecting line first. put or draw the reflecting line on the paper first. Okay, that is my... All right, I actually grabbed a snapshot, a picture of something that I think you guys will be working on, or something that you'll have to do. Notice that this one says do a reflection across a line y equals -2. So the first thing I need to remember, that's a special line. It only touches the y-axis, and it only touches it at -2. So if I go to the y-axis and I go to -2, and I can only draw a line that touches that point and it never touches x, I am looking at drawing a line that goes across like this. All right? That means that I want to draw a figure on the other side of that line that is a reflection or a mirror image. So if I fold my paper across y equals -2, I would have a picture above it that matches the picture below it. Okay, so here's the easiest way to do that. Okay, don't worry about writing a rule. All I need you to do is be able to perform the reflection. Looks like Q is 2 units below my reflecting line. So I'm going to simply locate Q 2 units above my reflecting line, only now it's Q prime. I think that is supposed to be letter Z. So Z is actually located 1, 2, 3 units below my reflecting line. So I'm going to locate Z prime 3 units above my reflecting line. All right, it turns out that I is right on the reflecting line. So I and I prime are in the same exact spot because it's on the reflecting line. E is 1 unit below the line, so E prime would be 1 unit above the line. So now if I sketch my picture, I believe that I have something that comes pretty close to being a reflection across the line y equals -2. Such that if I folded my paper across that green line, the top half and the bottom half should match pretty good. So that's how you need to approach doing your reflections for today. All right. There's also a summary of line reflections. This is a summary across the y-axis. The y's stay the same. Change the sign of the x's. So it's flipped across the y-axis. You can also flip across the x-axis. The x's stay the same. You should have this stuff written in your notes. Across the line y equals x, only thing we do is we switch the x's and y's. Okay, and remember, you're switching it across a line that's sideways. Then the last one is y equals -h. You're going to switch the sign of the x's and y's and change the sign of both the x's and the y's. Remembering that your negative sign means opposite. So if you need to pause and look at this section of the video again to jot down anything you might have missed before, please feel free to do so. So these are line reflections. All right. I want to go mention one more thing as we wrap up. You also have an assignment where you're given a gridded, it's look like a bunch of dots, and you're given 3 points. And it's going to ask you to do something. I think there are 5 of these graphs that you're asked to do, and you're asked to do different things with it. Every time, you're going to start with point A, point B, and point C, the same ones every time. So I'm going to pick up my pencil. I'm going to plot point A is at -1 up to. B is at 4, -3, so over 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, 2, 3. And then C is at 3, 5, so I'm going to come over 3 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I make my triangle, this was point A, this is point B, and this is point C. If I make my triangle, that's going to be your beginning triangle every time on this particular side of the lesson. Okay? Now, I'm going to use, and I'm going to pick up, every time it's going to ask me to do something with that picture. It may ask me to reflect it. It may ask me to translate it and move it around 5 units or 3 units. It may ask me to rotate it. So I'm going to do whatever it asks me to do. So this time it says a reflection across the y-axis. Every time you do a reflection, always take notice of where your reflection, draw the reflecting line first. So this time it said do the y-axis. So I am highlighting, that would be a good idea, highlight the y-axis, okay? Just so you know what line you're looking across. All right. Now, if I do my reflection, A is actually to the left of that reflecting line. So A prime should be to the right of that reflecting line, 1 unit. Looks like B is 1, 2, 3, 4 units from my reflecting line. So B prime should be 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the back side of my reflecting line. C is 3 units to the right, so C prime should be C units to the left. Now, if I erase my stray marks, then I should be able to connect A prime, B prime, A prime, B prime, and C prime, and I should see a reflection. That should look almost like what you might think of as an ink blot, where if I had ink across the A section to B to C, then and I folded my paper, I would get something that looks like a mirror image of that. So that is actually what I need you to do. So always start with these 3 points, every one of those 5 that's on the back side of one of your homework sheets. Okay, good luck.